Hi, thank you to all of you for great performances. To the wrestling boys first, maybe like a two-fold questions. First of all, I'm a bit interested in the whole, like the contrast or the play between like the really kind of masculine performance and the kind of glam culture outfits and the whole like kind of that kind of the costumes and if you can comment a bit on that. And also I'm a bit curious about like the kind of performance of masochism that also seems to lie within the wrestling, like, you know, the pain and also like your stories. I wonder if you could comment a bit on some of
it. Right, the way I can answer it best of all is with the outfits. I think when you walk through a curtain or out onto a stage, you've got to look different to everyone else in the audience. You've got to look like a star. So I think back in the day, as Gary was saying, in England, everyone just wore the same black trunks, black boots, black knee pads. And I think we had like Adrian Street who came to the ring dressed slightly with makeup on, and he got a big reaction then. And of course, wrestlers looked at that and went, "Well, if he can get a reaction from doing that, what happens if I do that? What happens if I do that? What happens if I do that?" And also, it can get your character over a lot quicker if you're dressed in a certain way. You know, a bad guy. You know, obviously I'm going to be American if I'm not. It'd be a bit silly. The bit with pain and masochism. To get an audience involved, they need to be able to relate to something that's happening in the performance, and everyone can really relate to pain, because I think everybody's probably felt pain at some point in their lives. So it's a quick way, if someone's suffering and they can show it in their body language or in their face if they're not wearing a mask, it's a way an audience can get behind them or cheer it on if the bad guy's getting beaten up.
With the pain as well, it's kind of like, it's interesting because to an outside person, yes, it looks painful, but to us, that's the whole art of wrestling. That's why it's an art form, especially in Japan. It's very popular in Japan because they see it as an art form, which is interesting because the whole illusion of getting hurt, it's that fine line of performing it safely as an art form or destroying it and hurting someone. Because the minute you actually hurt someone, you destroyed the art form. Because then it's just contact fighting. So yeah, it's a weird one. It's a very like obviously we don't want to, there is wrestling out there. They literally just go and batter the crap out of each other with light bulbs and stuff like that. But to me, that's not art. That's not why I got into it. It can, you know, float some people's boats, but not ours really.
No, not at all. But like you say, there's an art to it. Yeah, there's, you know, if you're just going to go out there and just right in someone's face, it's like the whole thing is you can get behind it, believing it. But if I've just punched someone full in the face, go and watch a boxing match. It's a bit like, the best way I can describe it, if anyone's ever done any sort of martial art or boxing or anything like that, when you free spar, so it can be quite solid, but you're not actually trying to knock the other person's life out. You know what I mean?
Maybe you want to pick up on this idea of performing pain as well, because I guess you know, maybe comment about one of my questions was around does kind of doing pain or embracing pain or performing pain, does that make you a freak? So.
Well, how I see a freak, you're born to be a freak. You can born to be a freak physically or mentally. It's.
And where does pain kind of feature in your freak?
Well, pain is something that is more mental state. Pain is illusion. You feel pain if you think that pain. You don't feel pain if it's not there in your mind.
I think with the pain thing in Sideshow is that it's there. I mean, like the wrestlers said, it's a tool to make what you're doing more impactful, and it's how you do it, not what you're doing, that is the skills. So, for instance, anyone can walk on glass, but probably most people that walk on glass will hurt themselves. Whereas if I walk on glass, I've trained myself, I've practiced it in my head and physically, so I know not to hurt myself, and I know when I'm going to hurt myself, so I can hold back. And I think in the history of Sideshow, pain is really important because that's what originally drew the crowds in. It's what people wanted to see pain because, of course, in the 30s when sideshows were really popular in America, they had a depression, they had really crap lives, and so they wanted to see something that would take them away from that. And I think sideshows escape from reality in that respect, where people can say, okay, these guys, obviously hurting themselves for my pleasure, and then you get transported into that world. And I think that you're
Not doing very well with mine.
I don't like I don't like hearing my voice, so I don't like talking on a microphone.
So that's quite interesting though around pain and also around what we talked about in the first part of the evening around I was going to say that.
The thing is, even with a car crash, why do people slow down to watch car crashes? People always going to react to relate to it. They've got it worse than us, you know. It's human nature.
Yeah, so there is
the biggest
this kind of
entertainment used to be
spectacle
a public
of glad it's
hanging
not
or
me.
an execution.
I think it's a cultural thing as well.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. So is the result of a freak show always, I'm like, because we talked about this a little bit earlier, I'm glad I'm me and I'm not that person over there.
I don't think so. I think there's two types of freaks in a freak show. There's the freaks that are born to be a freak. There's like,
Can everybody hear that?
Yes. I mean, there's freaks that are small people. There's freaks that are conjoined twins. It's actually go on for a long list. And there's people who want to be such, and they will train themselves to be such, and therefore they're called geeks. But with the whole thing of the pain in the sideshow, people I forgot what I'm saying. What was I saying?
That's quite interesting about geeks and freaks.
Yeah,
you want to make that distinction.
I mean,
Well, I see myself as a geek.
a geek is
Like-
someone who will train themselves to stick nails in their nose for people to say what the human pincushion and things, whereas a freak,
Tattooed people.
tattooed people are usually, they're the modern cultural version of a geek that you can see in everyday life, where people with body modifications are kind of modern cultural geeks because they want to be different for people to look at them in some ways not. And I think in the sideshows, people who would stick pins in themselves or would lay on nail beds, you do it, it's the skills that people come to see, not necessarily the pain, but it's how you present that and say, okay, I'm laying on a nail bed, this doesn't look like it hurts, but it hurts, and it's that presentation and that illusion that people want to see. It's like a lowbrow magician in a way, because everyone knows what you're doing is real, and they can see it, but for instance, when I walk on glass or do other things, people say, what the hell is she doing? That's fake. She can't do that. But that's because they don't want to believe that it is real. And it's that illusion that I enjoy performing, especially.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, over there.
Thank you for a brilliant night of art. Does it annoy you that the art that we've seen tonight is classed as low art and not high art, because you're all very, very skillful? How do you feel about that?
So you're including me in that skill?
Yes.
You want to snake start?
Because my performance doesn't involve an awful lot of skill. I mean, the example you've seen tonight, yeah, I don't have to say much about that. But I actually revel in that lack of skill and that low status. I wouldn't want to be. I probably have the capability to do something very traditional and be in the theatre or something, but actually I've avoided that. I don't even like showing my work in public. I'm not even an entertainer in that sense. I just make my work because I want to make my work. And the performance, I suppose improvisation I use is a skill, but actually I'll cut out all the bits that work in the video and leave in all the bits that I mess up and don't really work, just to avoid that idea of skill equals high equals.
Okay, comment from both performers
I actually, for the longest time, I mean, I'm not sure if it happens in the other sort of performance art, but when you go to wrestling crowds, for a while there, when wrestling and like the secrets behind wrestling got revealed, suddenly a lot of fans started to become very smart to it, and I'm not sure if it happens to any other performance artists, but you can be wrestling, and I've never known this anywhere else or seen this anywhere else, but you get people coming along almost not to enjoy themselves. Like, you'll be wrestling and some people will be cheering and you'll just see other people just sitting there going,
Yeah,
Like, almost like you're a puppet and entertain us, or better still, they'll sit there and then now and again they'll just write something down in a notebook. Like, oh, yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's because you're creating illusion as well. People want to kind of get to the bottom of it.
They want to see how it works.
Yeah, they want to see you mess up as well.
Do people describe your art practice as specifically low in terms of, you know, low and high?
Well, yeah, wrestling is
all that fake rubbish, isn't it?
deemed to be a lowbrow.
And how? What's your? I mean, is your project to bring out of that, or to celebrate the lowness? Like, because that's one of the questions that we have with this.
You could celebrate the lowness.
I like it, celebrate the lowness.
Celebrate the lowness.
I think, like everyone says, okay, it's like a low thing, but my whole ideology at wrestling, my whole vision, everything is that wrestling can ultimately be used as a tool, right? So I think the only way to make people respect wrestling is by hiding it, making them watch wrestling without actually realising watching wrestling. And then without that actually happening, like someone will associate it being a high thing, and then they go, that's just wrestling.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, it's all, for me, it's all about re-education, exactly what Greg just said there. It's like, I found with Lucha Britannia, especially for mine, it's like I'm not actually, I'd never say I was apologetic about it, but a lot of times I had so many years of people just going, that's all that fake rubbish, isn't it? In a way, I almost started to apologise for it, and then suddenly when doing, oh sorry. Okay, when I started doing Lucha Britannia, there was a whole new bunch of people going, oh, this is really good, I've never seen anything like this before. So for me, it's suddenly like, oh, there is a way we can actually sort of start to re-educate people, and I think it's the same for like the cabaret artists as well, because you've got some wrestling fans coming along, and they see all these cabaret stuff, and like, wow, I've never seen anything like that before.
Britain's Got Talent. Oh, it's amazing. Well, what? You're just doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, over here.
I mean, like, sideshow is lowbrow. That, I mean, in the range of circus arts, it is deemed as lowbrow for the general low life, because that's people who enjoy watching others inflict pain on each other. But I think I speak for myself, and I'm sure Barbara can speak for himself as well. But when I perform the sideshow by myself, because I've got a big Victorian roll-top bath that I fill with broken glass, and I do like a kind of acrobatic performance in that, but I still see that as sideshow. But yeah, I feel that I've taken it away from the sideshow medium into something that is, it's not cabaret, it's not circus, but it's got its own bubble. And it's not, again, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, how you present it, what your attitude is on stage, and who you present it to, the whole package that changes if it's highbrow or lowbrow. But I think people tend to stereotype too much, because yeah, modern class boundaries still exist, but I don't think they exist so much in performance anymore. So to say that what we all do might be deemed as lowbrow, but what is that compared to? I mean, is it compared to an aerial artist who's up there twirling in the hoop and being all fabulous with the diamante suits or whatever? I mean, but that could be lowbrow to something else, as in theatre or opera. It all depends on what you're comparing it to, and I don't think to compare our skills or our social skills to something that could be highbrow isn't, well, I don't really agree with that, because a skill is a skill, and it should be like looked at that for being skilled.
Okay, we're going to take one question there, and then what I want to do is maybe open it up to the sort of the whole of the evening, so if people have got thoughts about what happened in the part of the evening before the evening before, then maybe bring that in as well.
Okay, so this kind of accidentally touches on what Missy was just saying, but I'm just wondering if there is really any validity in claiming this kind of performance is lowbrow when we're here at the Roundhouse. Sideshow has been being performed at the Roundhouse, the Fire Tusk Circus, right,
So the
Fringe.
sideshow becomes
It's
kind
the
of
wrestling is in the Roundhouse, you know, that's pretty much mainstream now. And I don't really know if we can draw these lines anymore.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? We're trying to just promote
But
it
aren't
to...
you, like what I'm saying is, like, you're trying to do something that's already been done. You're already there.
Well, we're not there yet.
When you're here. That's what I'm saying. And it's just as much like to you as the organiser of the event as the performance. Is there really, you know, how can we call this lowbrow when we're here, not in some dive bar in Hackney, you know.
I think it's one of the problems also, even just kind of offering some academic attention to these kind of performances is in itself problematic, and I think this is what's coming up for a lot of people who are involved in kind of critical debate around this. My thoughts are like, well, how do you get out of that? You know, like, how do you, if anything is deemed worthy enough to look at, then are you raising the worthiness of that, or do you somehow go with the unworthiness of it and kind of try to get into that? And I think these are some of the problems that I have never really got to the bottom of, and maybe we will.
I think also as well it all revolves around like old is new again. I mean, there can be like everything travels in cycles. So like maybe wrestling at one point was right up there, or performance art, and then it goes down and just becomes like a little curious thing that's seen in a little bar in Hackney. And then old is new again. Like just a single dot on a page becomes a point of inspiration, and it revolves around again. So I think everything can travel in a
That's really
cycle.
the point. It's like I take my inspiration from the old and bring it into the new, but every time the old is brought into the new again, it becomes something different and more boundaries are pushed. So what you're looking at is always going to be growing and it's always going to be recreated. So you can't define it. You can't define something that's always going to be changing. You can't put stereotypes on it because they're not going to exist next time it comes around.
Okay, any other questions with regards to the whole of tonight's event? We're starting to sort of get onto that, so that's really good.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to talk all night now.
I'm just going to hold you there and
Yeah,
just ask you
let
if there
someone
are
else
any
have a
other
go.
people. And then
It's
maybe
about a
we'll-
different thing, I promise.
Is anyone burning to say anything? Yeah.
I suppose it's really quick, but I suppose it just wonders how many people are thinking about like gender and sort of, I mean obviously the clown's thinking a lot about gender, but I just wondered if other people, if any of the performers are pushing gender boundaries or
So
thinking
perhaps
about
we
that.
might sort of look at the kind of project of the sideshow, the resurgence of the sideshow, with a kind of gender politic project. You know, so
Can I say something about that? We've got some characters in our show, one of which is called Ultimo Perversio. His name speaks for himself. And then, and then we have another character called El Transexico. And El Transexico is a good guy, girl. And we're trying to break the stereotypes of with a traditional kind of young, kind of laddie audience. If you've got a gay character or a bisexual character or a perverted character or a kinky character, the general kind of laddish mentality would be to be like gay boy, and it would be derogatory. We're turning that on its head and trying to make the stars like bisexual, transsexual, multiracial. We've got two of our big heroes. One's the Bengal tiger, Rajan Singh, and one is Lil Britannica, who is a black guy. Black guy. He's our main character now. So like, we're trying to again everything that's existed in normal wrestling, we're trying to turn on its head and produce new ways of looking at things so that the
So
audience
there's
can
a
react.
twist there, isn't there? Kate, mainly around gender.
I tend to avoid gender. I mean, it was a low cut top. Sorry. So these things sort of come into it, but they're in my work accidentally because I can't avoid physicalities. But actually, I don't dwell on it because there's so much work out, and it's been done to death, in my opinion, in many different variations, and lots of it's very good and interesting, like that sounds really interesting, but there's lots of other stuff that's just doing it for the sake of it. And I just think, well, can't queer work be beyond gender? And just, isn't there more out there and less, because it's just stereotype out there, isn't it? Yeah, it's about. So my gender, it may look gendered, but it's sort of everything you want. So low cut top and a big balloon.
Does it not depend on who's viewing it and who it's
Yeah,
aimed
exactly.
at, and society's mirror and the whole rise of what we're doing individually and collectively is a reflection on society, the way that things are being looked at differently, and there's a backlash against normality and normal thinking. And like you said, with whatever it's called, Britain's Got Talent, Which
Just make
you know,
house and
as a performer, as a producer, as a director, as someone who owns a venue and an art gallery myself, I get approached by the producers of Britain's Got Talent because I'm plugged into a really strong network of performers, and they ask me, they send me emails, they phone me, can you provide us with this kind of performance? And I ignore them. I do not answer their emails anymore because I don't want to be a part of propagating bullshit television. And that kind of media thing. And the things that we're doing are very, very different, but there's a kind of like a 2-pronged, 4-pronged, 6-pronged attack on this bubble, which I guess that everybody in this room is pretty much here because they don't want that kind of entertainment. They want to be thrilled and exhilarated and emotively kind of pushed and pursued in other ways, shapes or forms, not in kind of bullshit.
I think the one thing that struck me about that was last year's Britain's Got Talent. I don't know, I ended up catching a bit of it. Simon Cowell. Anyway, and for instance, I don't know, it's Simon Cowell and 2 other players, I don't even know who they are, but how they can suddenly decide what's right and good for the whole of Britain to watch.
Well, it's only good for their mortgage.
Yeah, but they had like a freak show artist there, and he was like doing the traditional stuff, and they voted him through to the finals. And all of a sudden, as soon as he got to the finals, they all X'd him, and it was all like, I think this is disgusting, I can't believe it. And it's like, the only reason you did that, so you could get people to watch it, and then at the thing, just completely shit on it. And it's just, that's like traditional, that's just like what they want, that sort of summed them up for me, really. So.
They can take away someone's life work,
Yeah.
someone's life career, just like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think using people for artists' forms is particularly fair.
So in that sense, in terms of your question around being sidelined, perhaps we all live within that kind of.
It also ties back to the freak show film that was shown, where they're talking about exploitation. Is that is just another form of performance being exploited or exploiting yourself?
Oh, come on, if someone's not being exploited, it's not.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch.
Someone's got to
You can't
suffer
make it money for
somewhere.
it, basically.
So it is being exploited by suffering, so it's
Yeah, well, theatrically speaking, it can be. You can kind of ham it up, be like, oh, I'm exploiting myself for your pleasure, watch me and cheer. But in your head, you're just thinking, I'm skilled, I'm good, I'm a good performer.
You've got them like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about how you present it and what you're doing and how you tie the two together. That is the most effective way.
So it's something about power there as well.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, like, sorry to be so enthusiastic.
Yeah. They could all be looking at you thinking, oh, why is she doing that to herself? But nobody's turning away.
I mean, when I perform in my bath of broken glass, I'm not wearing much, I have to admit. I don't wear much at all. But I have the audience in the power of my hand because they are looking at me thinking, oh wow, she's not wearing much and she's being quite provocative. But yeah, cool, she's quite skilled. And, oh shit, she's doing something really, really dangerous. And they have like this mental combustion. But then through all of that, I'm thinking, yeah, you're watching me. You're watching my show and you're enjoying it. And it's all
So
about
do you think that being ogled in that way, like what I kind of suggested at the beginning, is something is to have power to overpower itself?
I prefer to use, like, going back to the gender question, for being a female sideshow artist, I feel that I'm in quite a powerful position because I can use my gender however I want to make either the stunts and tricks that I do more powerful, or I can make the audience view me as being quite exploited. It depends, and because of that, because I can present myself being quite cute or quite dominatrix, though I can't speak, but being like quite powerful and quite in control, depending on how I portray myself, that depends on the audience's reaction, and I can use that to my whim, so to speak. So
does that relate then to Lisa's question around exploitation within the American Freak Show? Do you want to add anything into that in terms of being differently embodied?
I think what was interesting for me about the freak show that Richard Butchins was filming is the performances are completely shambolic. I mean, you got a sense of that. And I guess one of the key differences would be around disability, which has kind of come out. But I wondered actually if anyone wants to comment on that, because of course the performers in these freak shows are also disabled. They have various disabilities, or at least congenital anomalies or diversities. and their participation in the freak show isn't about showing off skill. You know, it's very much more around the body as spectacle.
But at the same time, they still had to do something, didn't they? So you do see the person who's small, for example, walking on glass. And
Yeah.
they have to actually do something, whether it's crap in a crap way or not, is highly
I
interesting.
think in that respect, it's like I haven't been to America much. I've been there once, but regarding the small people walking on glass or watching people because of their disabilities, I think that is a cultural thing because they might have been brought up to believe in that society that they're in, that they are only good for one thing, that is their disability, or they can't do much because of their disability, so therefore they have to follow certain routes. Whereas in other places, probably in America as well, depending on their their kind of close culture, my vocabulary isn't that good today, but it depends on the culture.
Sorry, I didn't see the film, but I want to get something straight. Are these people forced to perform? So where's the exploitation?
People making money off it.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be there if they didn't want to do it. And then what you know, do they want to be doing up to? Oh, I really wanted to be, you know, an IT worker, but I'm being forced because of my physical disability. I've got to be a freak show. No, they choose to be a freak show, surely.
I don't think it's that simple.
No, again, I think also, like saying, in the back of their head, they could be, I mean, I'm speaking generally for them, but they could be saying, oh, I wish I could have been an IT person, or I wish I could have done that, but I don't think I can, because the only thing I think I can do is this, because that's what I've been brought up to believe. I think it depends on the person.
Anyone want to chip in on that? Because it's quite an interesting one.
I think
Over here, yeah?
I just want to
Malcolm,
know something about endurance, because what's striking me about both of your performances is that you endure kind of like great physical kind of apparently pain, right, and strain, and yours is quite extraordinary feats that we experience. I wonder if these disabled people in this freak show, whether we watch them because it's also a tale of endurance, fighting against something and winning. No, is that what it's about? It's about Q2?
that's endurance.
Hey, come over here and then I'll come over to you.
I think the thing that I'm most problematic about the film is the girl who seemed to suggest that she wanted to be kind of a conventional singer or a conventional performer. And she said, you know, I've always performed, this is what I do, but if she just wanted to be a singer, if she wanted to be a pop star, you know, she didn't have a chance. She didn't seem to feel herself to be particularly exploited, but I think it was a suggestion that she could only perform in front of an audience by exploiting her disability rather than kind of perhaps showing that she could save the world.
I know I keep repeating myself again and again and again, but if people were more accepting of disabilities, then maybe she could be. I mean, we all know someone who's got one leg, but she's got a blossoming career. You know, and
Successful model,
yeah, she's
successful
beautiful,
singer,
but it's all
and she doesn't trade on the fact that she's got half a leg missing.
I know a dwarf girl who used to be part of our service in Finland 9 years ago, and she came to us if she could be a performer for the service. And since that, she's been working for the IT company in the UK, and she's still performing for passion. And she's totally free, physically, and she tells it herself, yes, I am totally free, and I fucking love it.
Anyone else?
I just thought the film, not that I've seen the whole film, but I'd love to see it now, I just saw it as part of the wider civil rights tradition of pride. In the same way that Mad Pride was orchestrated and was built up about 5 or 6 years ago, and we've got longer traditions of other kinds of pride. And pride's about spectacle, about whether that's marching down the streets and saying we're here, we're queer, we're going shopping, or from in terms of gay liberation front, or it's about the disability pride movements that are built up both in the United States and the UK and many, many countries, which are about queering and unpacking what it means to be able and what that means. And I saw that completely within that tradition. So the shambolicness of it is about unpacking and queering the notion of skill and ability. So of course it kind of queers, and so of course if we want to think about the motivations of those particular performers, I would possibly locate it within that kind of pride traditions of civil rights.
Yeah, I think that's really useful. Do you want to respond? Okay, we've got literally like 1 or 2 more minutes, so is there anyone that wants to make a final point? Yeah, over there.
I saw everyone as defining themselves as other in their performances, and I wonder how you would all react to becoming more mainstream, almost against how you defined yourself as I saw it. So, for example, wrestling, it was a mainstream performance thing every Saturday.
Yeah.
And how would you feel if that then became the norm again?
That's our aim.
And
our aim is a multiple.
and would it lose anything? And I'd ask the other performers as well.
No, I don't think it would. If we're allowed to take our vision, the way that we see it, and build it up the way we do, but bear in mind we perform to some quite big audiences. We've done the Brit Awards after show, 4,000 people, Reading the Leeds Festival, 25,000 people, Download Festival last year, and again we're doing it this year. So we get to perform in front of like thousands and thousands of people, but we also do really small shows as well in front of like 100, 200 people. The aim is to take all of the creative talent that we've got, and as quirky and as weird and unusual as it can be, if someone's got something to offer, then we can somehow work it into the show, and that hopefully that everyone grows together. Say like we're other, I think we're collective. I think we're legion. We're as one.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think when, like, say for example, if you were given an opportunity to be Superman, like TV mainstream or whatever.
Give me the budget, I'll show you how to do it.
We have to lose kind of like some of the politics that you said about, like, let's say you had to get rid of the L transsexual or whatever.
L transsexual.
L transsexual. Would you do that, like, because you already sort of commented that you don't answer emails?
No,
so
El Transsexual is going to be a good character that certain people are going to relate to, certain people are going to love, certain people are going to hate. You can inject comedy into it, you can inject seriousness into it. It's a vehicle, every character is a vehicle for social commentary, and could be a vehicle for artistic interpretation as well. And that's just on the wrestling side. Remember, our show is not just wrestling. Our show is freak show, sideshow, performance, magic, dance, mime, comedy.
So go for the sort of the mass, the popular, but keep the kind of freak show alternative ethos.
Well, there's no reason why the freak show as is now, and as you've seen as a collective, there's no reason why that can't just be gone chunk and become as it is, unchanged, relatively. There will be tweaks, obviously, but there's no reason why it
Just
can't.
keep it fresh, because you do run the risk of freak becoming norm. So it's just keep.
Where would we be then? On that note.
I'm sure nobody in this room feels like they're normal, do they? Hands up who's normal. You're definitely not normal. I've seen you really disappear up your own backside.
On that note, I'd quite like to draw to you've got a burning thing to say.
I just wanted to say with freak show becoming mainstream, I mean it is pretty much mainstream because you see posters around, you see references to it all the time, but the only thing that's stopping it from being mainstream, because I guarantee you that a lot of people want to be a sideshow performer, a freak show performer, but they can't. And that is the skill that makes it so, I hate to use the word lowbrow or underground things, but that's what keeps it hidden and so special in a way and exclusive, is because that people can't do it, but they want to watch it, and they want to be voyeurs, and they want to observe the strange world, but yet they kind of hold it up and worship it in a way, because you see these posters and you see these references in even women's culture. I mean, Britney Spears, for instance, I can think of many people who will revert back to freak show, but you can't make it mainstream.
I think, can I just add on to that? I think everyone is hungry for more. We want more, we want to be entertained, and we don't quite know what we want to be entertained with, but we know it's not that. and we know it's not that. And that looks good, but we want that, and we want to be, you know, we're starving actually, we're not just hungry, I'm personally, I'm starving to be entertained, and that's what drives me to, with art, other people's art, and finding, if I find a new artist, and I'm just amazed, and it excites me, and it gives me entertainment, and then I want to share that, and I want to share all the people that I know in a show and put it to everybody so I can entertain everybody else, and everybody else is thrilled and excited and
Brilliant.
exhilarated.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks very much for being really passionate. Thanks very much for your attention and sort of staying the length. Do grab a drink, and we'll be milling for a while. I think the bars are open until about 11. So thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.